Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi tahirin. Dear brothers and sisters, Salamun alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We were discussing isti'aذah and its 4 pillars, and then its ultimate consequence, which was if we succeed, we have divine sovereignty ruling within us. If we don't, shaitan is ruling within us. Now, to understand this idea of divine or satanic sovereignty within us, we have to explain 1 or 2 principles. In Islam, we have actions, ethics, and doctrine. The relationship between these 3 is that of cause and effect. That's 1 point. And the second point is there's also a synergy, a mutual 2-way relationship between these 3. So the cause and effect relationship entails that your Tawheed is a precursor and cause to you succeeding in executing ethical virtues. And your ethical virtues is a cause and precursor to you succeeding in your actions of the Sharia. This is a very golden statement, and I'm trying to highlight and dissect this statement. And the other way around too, if you commit the actions of the Sharia with the 2 etiquettes of isti'aذah, i.e. khulus and iman, it will facilitate you to execute the ethical virtues, which will facilitate your incorporating La ilaha illallah into your heart. So, as you can see, there's a cause and effect relationship from the top downwards, but also if you succeed, the more you succeed in relation to your actions, it'll facilitate your success in the higher realms, in the ethical virtues and higher, and so on and so forth. This has to be borne in mind. If Tawheed is maximized, the more it's maximized, your ethical virtues will increase as a result, and therefore your actions of the Sharia will become enhanced. And that's an example of divine sovereignty ruling over you. But if your Tawheed is compromised, your ethical virtues will be compromised. Your actions in the Sharia will ultimately be compromised. Because with ethical virtues, you've polluted yourself so much that you become susceptible to compromising actions of the Sharia. And this would be an example of, when Tawheed is lacking, of satanic sovereignty ruling within you. So that's what we mean. But the relationship between doctrine, Tawheed, ethics, the ethical virtues, and actions of the Sharia, this has to be carefully scrutinized and understood. Now the point is that ethical virtues are a precursor to actions of the Sharia. To put it very simply, if you want to succeed in committing actions of the Sharia properly, your ethical virtues have to be perfected. And if you have no ethical virtues, or it's at a minimum, the actions of the Sharia that you may be abiding in relation to, but it's spiritually futile. It's almost zero, the value of it. You're committing the actions of the Sharia, but it's only a superficial movement of your body, movement of your tongue, movement of your limbs. Why is this spiritually futile? Because the precursor, the cause, was absent. And so you're just emulating and simulating outer actions. And that's very limited. I'm not saying it's zero, but it's very limited. That's why you shouldn't think just because you're abiding by the wajibat and refraining from the muharramat, it's game over. No, by no means. That which many societies, many cultures have undervalued, and we're not teaching our children at a young age, are the ethical virtues. These ethical virtues are a very important precursor to your success in the realm of the Sharia. And that's why with ethical virtues you have to teach your children at a very young age, not through discipline, primarily through your own actions, and if possible verbally teaching them some ethical universal principles. Because that is the key and precursor to success in the realm of the Sharia. That's a very important point. Now, someone may raise the flag of humanitarianism and say, well, we're humanists and ethics is the be-all and end-all. We have to say no. This statement is not correct for two reasons. First of all, you can't make yourself exempt from actions of the Sharia just because you are abiding by a number of ethical virtues. By no means. It has to fall in line and in the direction of the actions of the Sharia. If you don't commit yourself to Allah's commands, those ethical virtues will be insignificant, totally nothing, futile. The reason why these ethical virtues will be futile is because what is the precursor to those ethical virtues? For example, anger is an ethical vice. Let's say someone avoids anger, which is an ethical virtue. But why are they avoiding anger? Is it because of their hormones? Is it because of what they've inherited from their parents? Well, that's of no value if you avoid anger because of something which you inherited or because of an inherent trait. That's of little spiritual value. It's good not to be angry, but if you want to see if it's spiritually good or not, you have to see and evaluate what was the precursor to this becoming not angry. And the precursor had to be Tawheed. If the precursor to not being angry, if the precursor to not committing oneself to ethical vices and if the precursor to enjoining or incorporating ethical virtue is Tawheed, yes, that's important. You're spiritually growing. But it has to be through Tawheed. You see, a kafir, a non-believer, they may exhibit and display many ethical virtues that Muslims may not have. You shouldn't get overexcited and say, look, they are the true Muslims. No, because they're not displaying or manifesting those ethical virtues through Tawheed. Remember the third pillar, that by means of which you seek refuge. It has to be through Tawheed. It has to be through Allah. If it's through something else, that's spiritually neutral. And so those who raise the flag of humanitarianism and say Islam is a religion of humanity, no. Islam is much more than that. Humanity is a very small dimension, a very minimum dimension of Islam. Don't limit Islam with a Tawheedless picture. Therefore, it's true to say that the precursor to actions of the Sharia is ethical virtues. But the precursor to ethical virtues has to be Tawheed. If it's not Tawheed, those ethical virtues have little value and will not guarantee safeguarding you in the realm of the Sharia, and you may still sin. If everyone must evaluate themselves. If you see yourself succeeding in many ethical virtues, but you're sinning still in the realm of the Sharia, this shows your Tawheed is lacking. the La ilaha illallah incorporated into your heart is lacking. That has to be fixed. You have to compensate there. That's where the fault lies. And here you may, for example, through Tawheed, you may realize very little ethical virtues. But you've incorporated some, but it's very little. That's good to some degree. At least you've incorporated ethical virtues through Tawheed. But you have a long way open yet. And therefore you're still polluting yourself with a lot of ethical vices. You have to make sure to refine yourself through Tawheed, to refine these ethical vices. So when you get angry, it's an ethical vice. But why did you get angry? Because someone took something from you. Well, Tawheed teaches you that everything is Allah's. And you've academically understood that. But have you incorporated it into your heart? No, otherwise you wouldn't have got angry. But a kafir, someone may steal from them and they don't get angry. Is that of spiritual value? No, because they didn't do it through Tawheed. This realization that everything has to happen through Allah, everything is traced back to Him, everything emanates from Him. One's picture of Allah, what is Tawheed? Tawheed has to be understood. Huwa al-awwalu wal-akhiru wal-dhahiru wal-batin. And then in dua number 8, the protocol given in isti'aذه, in seeking refuge, is that all Imam is saying, I seek refuge, or we seek refuge in Allah from, and he gives 40 or 50 traits that we seek refuge from. These are satanic traits, and they are all pertaining to the ethical realm. Why? He doesn't mention any Sharia dictates, or very few. Predominantly it's the ethical virtues he's mentioning. And why is that happening? Inshallah we'll discuss this in the next lesson. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.